have a motion to open the public hearing for the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Village of Southampton? February
So moved.
25th. And a
Second.
second? All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so let's begin. We have two pending decisions. Is the applicant for case number 3098, Apogee Building Company LLC, 10 Center Street, are they here?
If you're here for 10 Center Street, please raise your hand. No one from the audience is raising their hand.
I think we're awaiting a revised survey.
I thought we got that.
I didn't see a revised survey showing the pool in a separate location. Did anybody else?
No.
No.
So what should we, can I have a motion to adjourn this for all purposes, pending receipt of the survey?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll adjourn case number 3098, Apogee Building Company, 10 Center Street, awaiting a revised survey. And for case number 3100, Barbara
Susan
Royer.
is muted and she's trying to say something. Susan, you're
I'm sorry.
muted. You're still muted, Susan.
I have a survey dated February 17th.
Dated, I'm sorry?
February 17th. It was I thought was given to me this week.
I did not receive it.
Well, why am I so special? Were we lining up the pool with the house?
Yes.
Yes.
17 feet off one line and 50 off the other? That's what's on here. But if you don't have it, I don't know. It was stamped into the building department on February 18th.
Does it show the house being 17 feet also?
17.1, yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what they were supposed to do, line it up with the back of the house.
That's what I thought. Well,
Yeah, so the rest, I never got notified that it wasn't in my package and I didn't get a notification that it had come in late to come in and pick it up. You must have gone in this week and they had it. When we
right.
had live meetings, they used to put those late arrivals on our desk at the meeting. So I don't know what they're doing with them now.
They've been emailing them to us when they arrive, but that has not happened.
Well, I went in on Tuesday afternoon and got this. So they did put in the survey, but I don't know how we could. The only thing I could do is scan it and email it, but that seems crazy.
Well, we can talk about it at the work session as well and have a decision ready for the next public hearing.
Well, this guy has, actually done what we said, I believe.
Correct.
So I don't want to, I hate to penalize him, but the ground is frozen, so I don't think they're digging the pool out. But I did receive this in the most recent, we got like 3 pieces of paper. This was one of, I got it.
No, and he won't be penalized, Susan, because we'll have the decision ready for the next public hearing. It's as soon as it would have been ready anyway.
Well, is the attorney, can he write, you good with this?
Sure, we'll have plenty of time.
I'll review the record and prepare it for the board.
Okay, great. Okay, just so, I just didn't want him to not get credit because he actually did produce the document.
Did we
I
vote
really
on that?
appreciate it.
We could vote
Susan,
on
you're
it now.
muted again.
Susan, if you want to represent that the pool now is flush with
No,
the same
I don't
distance
want to
from.
represent a survey by talking. I'm sorry.
Okay, so then we'll do it at the
I'm
next work.
smarter.
Dan, we can have the decision ready and we can vote on it at the next public hearing. It won't, it won't make a difference as far as the timing goes.
So did anyone else pick up the new material on Tuesday?
I did
no.
No,
not.
What?
No.
no.
Isn't that how it goes? You pick it up twice a month?
Correct.
Actually, what's
Okay.
been happening is that we've also been having it emailed to us, and that usually has been the trigger for the live meeting, frankly.
Well, I'm all for the real document, which I hope, but I don't want to represent, I have, it looks like the guy did what we asked, but I think everyone should look at it themselves.
We will.
Great.
Do we have a motion in a second? Should we vote on this?
Well, we want to see, it won't hold anybody up. So why don't we do that at the work session? And then we can actually have the vote. I think we know that the vote is going in favor, unanimously, as long as the survey shows that the pool is no closer to the southern property line than the house. That's what we agreed. So it was really just the documentation that we needed, Dan.
Right, but we have a motion then to close this for all purposes, until next month.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Can I have a motion to close
So moved.
case number 3098, Apogee Building Company, 10 Center Street, for all purposes?
So
I'll
moved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we're moving on to case number 3100, Barbara Reuter and William Williams, 599 Meadow Lane, where we've received a written decision by Chick Voorhees for our approval as written. Can I have a motion to approve the decision as written for case number 3100?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
So moved.
just one point. I happened to speak to Ms. Allen this afternoon, and this is as to 599 Meadow, correct?
Correct.
Apparently, we had not received a response back from the County Planning Commission with respect to the submission to them. So if the board is going to go to decision tonight, I'd suggest it just be subject to the response from the County Planning Commission. Ms. Allen said that they had forwarded in the necessary documents, just hadn't received a response.
Chick, do you want to weigh in on that?
Quite honestly, it has not come up in the past. That's because administratively, the ZBA office, building department office takes care of it all before it gets to us. But I am curious on a, recreational pier on a residential lot that's a type 2 action under seeker, what the referral is to the County Planning Commission. I don't think it's near a village. Maybe, I don't know. I guess it would have to be near a village line.
Right, I'm just working with what I was advised by the building office, which is that they had submitted that to the planning commission. I expect it'll be left to local determination. I don't foresee any issue with it. But I just did want to advise the board that they hadn't received a response back.
Okay. Mark, it hasn't come up in the past, probably because the building office takes care of it. So I guess we'll go with the recommendation of the attorney, of Jeffrey.
So Jeff, would we then be approving the decision as written, subject to receipt of the county's, is it a written document?
It'll be a written response. They may send it digitally at this point, but it will be subject to response from the County Planning Commission.
Okay, so can I have a motion to accept the decision as written in case number 3100, subject to receipt of a written response from the Suffolk County, it's the Planning Commission?
Yes.
Planning Commission.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Can I have a
Second.
second? And all in favor?
Aye.
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 And aye. So we are unanimous in our approval of the decision as written, subject to that provision. So we're moving on to pending cases. Case number 3087, 71 Walnut Street. Is the applicant here? Do they
Yes,
want to present?
yeah, let me bring them in. Okay. So Gil Flanagan, Rosemary Renna, and Lisa Zaloga are present for this application.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'll just make a few remarks because this was discussed at quite some length at the work session. As an administrative matter, you should have in the file the original affidavit of posting and the original affidavit of mailing to confer jurisdiction that was hand delivered earlier today. Just want to be sure that that's in the record. As you know, this is a renoticed.
Excuse me,
yeah.
what was delivered today, Mr. Flanagan?
The affidavit of posting and the affidavit.
Oh, okay.
Much we can't deliver it till today, so we delivered it. As I say, this is a renoticed, reopened application for the relief, which was set forth in the letter that I submitted to the board on January 29th, was supplemented by some additional information on February 9th, which I believe you already have in the record, and we discussed briefly at the work session, and we can make available to you if you so desire. Just to summarize where we were at the end of the work session, we were asked to consider reducing the number of variances and to prioritize the variances, which we have discussed with our client. And I believe we indicated at the work session that my client's preference would be to withdraw without prejudice the application for the garage, which from a review of your various meetings and minutes appeared to be the part of the application that had the most concerns raised by the board members. So we would be willing to withdraw that request for a variance without prejudice. That would mean that we would be left with the spa, the vestibule addition on the south side of the existing house, and also the addition to the north side of the existing house. I believe in order of preference, my client is desirous of having the spa and the vestibule and the addition. I would remind, there was one comment I think made at the work session that removing the garage from the application would essentially have removed the so-called elephant in the room, since that was the part of the application that had the most concern apparently voiced about it. The spa seems to have emerged as an issue, and I just would point out again to you that it's only 80 square feet. It's not a swimming pool, meets all required setbacks from the neighbors. Only relief is from Pine Street, and the neighbor most directly affected across the street from that in support of the application. It's also important to note again for the record, since this is the public hearing, that the whole property is substantially screened, and even internally, the spa itself would be further screened from surrounding properties. I would again reiterate to you that since this is a dimensional variance case, the standards that the board to apply are the standards contained in section 7-712B of the New York State Village Law, which essentially amounts to a balancing test where the board should weigh the benefit to the applicant against any detriment to the neighborhood or the environment. And I would submit that with respect to the spa, since that seems to be the thing of concern, that there really is no negative impact on the neighborhood whatsoever. And in fact, as a result of the application, if the three variances we are seeking now were granted, that is the spa, the vestibule, and the addition, we would upgrade the sanitary system to an IA system, and we would reduce the density of the house from 2 families to 1. So there's a significant, we maintain a significant environmental benefit as a result of the grant of this application. I don't want to beat it anymore. I think we've summarized what we intended and what our position is at the work session. I know my client is available to reiterate a few things, and if you have any questions of the architect, she's also available and would be able to exhibit things on the screen if you have any questions. At that point, if you have no objections or questions of me, I'd like to see if my client would like to say anything.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. No, I just, I think I said everything I wanted to say at the work session, and I'm sure you all remember that. I reiterated the preference of the variances, the spa being the #1 preference, and I think that we should be able to make a decision from here.
Susan, you're muted.
That's good.
Do any board members have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Chairman, could I say one more thing? There was one thing that came up at the work session when John Wobst raised a question about the vestibule. And it's important to note, as I think we had in the record before, that previously this house had a porch that went across the front of it. So it's not as if we're introducing something that was never there. And I think that it's important to bear that into, take that into consideration. That was part of the record. I should have mentioned that before. I apologize.
Also, I think we should reiterate that there are pools in the neighborhood. There's a spa across the street. There's a pool on Walnut Street. There's a pool directly behind me on Cameron Street. There's several pools on Cameron Street. So this is not setting any precedents for the neighborhood. There's already precedents set with regard to a water feature on the property. I mean, does the board have any questions? Are they?
No, Gil, I would say, because of the way that you summarized the prior discussions, the garage probably received a great deal of attention from the board. And I don't want to speak for other board members, but as a participant in those discussions, I think the board spent as much time as it did discussing the garage because it did not seem like a garage. It seemed like a pool house, which from my point of view just seemed to magnify the effect of the installation of a spa. So while we spent more time discussing it, I didn't want you to be under the wrong impression that it was because that was their primary concern. It was the recipient of the greatest amount of discussion because it was curious that it was being demarcated as a garage, but it seemed more like a pool house.
Well, I think
That's correct.
I heard was that that someone would wind up living in it, and not just being a pool house. There was a concern about it actually being inhabited.
Yeah,
and
that too.
through the course of those proceedings, we eliminated the various aspects of it that would lend itself to habitation. It's important to note that the main concern I heard about the spa was its location, and so we therefore moved it closer to the house, as was suggested by at least one of the board members. It also bears repeating that this board has historically, in considering variances like this, when a setback variance is required, but you're not in the definitional front yard, that generally is viewed more favorably than if the structure were in the definitional front yard, that is closer to the street than the house. And this is set back substantially further from the street than the house is. And again, I would ask, what is the harm? What is the detriment? What is the harm to the community from this? I fail to see that.
You know, I just want to say something, Mark, on November 19th at a board meeting, you said, and I quote, "None of the individual variances are objectionable, but the cumulative effect of 4 of them are too much for a front yard." And then you ask, if we can't agree on all of them, which 3 of them are most important to you?
Mark, also, I think with the giving up the 2-family status and putting in an IA system, which is less of a septic impact, which and the tightness of the closest to the main street in the village, is a worth consideration.
No, absolutely. And Dan, I do want to have it, at least as far as my opinion goes, the applicant has suggested reducing the house from a 2-family to a 1-family residence. The board never requested that, and the board has never discussed whether they collectively believe that reducing the house from a 2-family to a 1-family residence is actually a benefit to the community. It's something that the applicant has offered several times, but we've never had a discussion as to whether or not that is a good thing or a somewhat indifferent thing for the village. I think the village, in many cases would like 2-family homes for affordability purposes. So it's been offered by the applicant, but we've never discussed it.
Historically, anytime anyone would take a non-conforming, I don't think that's multifamily, is that?
It is multifamily. It is multifamily. But one
So
of the
you're
things
gonna give up?
we're giving, one of the things that this board, and there have been other cases in which I've been involved, or which I'm familiar with, where a reduction in density has been looked favorably, no matter where it is. And that coupled with the fact that we're upgrading the sanitary system certainly would have a beneficial effect on the environment. And I think that's important.
Well, the master plan, for a house as close to the village, within walking distance of the main street. When the master plan was formed, there was a lot of discussion about how it would be beneficial to the village to have spaces for working people where they would not be driving a car into the village to get to work. This, you know, I don't know if two families could now live in this particular structure that we're discussing, but I do not think, I think it, honestly, by definition, it giving up the two-family status is not, to me, is not something that I feel changes, that changes my opinion. Because I do believe that if it were functional, and I don't know if you could make it functional, and obviously that's not going to be happening, is something that the village is seeking out. And it's pre-existing. So I can't go there with it. You're giving us this great gift. I don't really think it is.
As I say,
So
the village,
Mark, historically, going from two family to one family is always looked as a positive because there's less density, less people, less impact on the septic, less cars parked and you know, on the property or on the street. So that historically in the past, that was always the reasoning why if you could get rid of a two family to a one family, it was looked at as a plus. Going forward, I understand that the, you know, the village, you know, it does have a shortage of worker housing. I don't know if this falls into that category or not.
I would say, even if you took that away, the fact that we're upgrading the sanitary system, especially given the location of this house and proximity to surface waters, has to be looked at as a positive benefit. That in and of itself, I think, would probably be enough to weigh this towards a net benefit to the community and the environment.
Well, that's agree. So, you know, what the board will do as a next step, and
You're muted.
you know, I'm sorry.
I was trying to tell Susan that she's muted. She's not now. You're not now.
What we will do as a next step, and Gil, let us know if this is agreeable to you, is we would close this for further discussion among board members, because we will, you know, engage in our review of the guidelines and our guidelines for deliberation and decision. And one of them, of course, is to balance the benefit to the applicant against the detriment to the neighborhood, you know, among other standards, substantial nature of the variance, et cetera. Is that where we're going now, Gil, on this?
Can you tell me what the detriments to the neighborhood are?
For a spa?
Yeah, well, if that's what you're against, then yes, for the spa, what is the detriment to the neighborhood?
Oh, of course. I mean, first, there is a zoning code which the board members, you know, I hope are ready, willing, and able to defend. And the zoning code does not allow this. So we have, you know, as an umbrella.
The setback because it's a corner property?
Exactly.
Okay, well, what about 70 South Hill Street?
Yes, and exactly. And then what about the next person who says, what about 71 Walnut Street? And so that's exactly what the board needs to consider.
So you're saying that you
we have
granted 70 South Hill Street, but you don't want to grant 71 Walnut Street because someone is going to come along and say, what about 71 Walnut Street?
Well,
so you
Also,
granted,
excuse me, also because frankly, the owner of South Hill Street also returned to this board and felt that the variance that they received was unsatisfactory to them for a myriad of reasons. Each property, hold on a minute, Mrs. Renner. each property is unique and we're asked to look at each one separately. And we don't compare each one. We're not looking at South Hill Street as we're looking at yours, but you are, and asking us each and every time. It's very hard on occasion to comment because we get into a barrage of argument. We have an obligation to try to adhere to the zoning code, to address hardship when it's brought to us, and to try to balance the neighborhood's needs and your requests. And this particular case, every time we try to engage in a conversation over the last few months, there are people who are arguing with us. Some of this, we have to put our thoughts together. We're doing the best we can too. And honestly, this case has become extremely difficult because you're asking us to compare things that have happened in the past. That's not actually our charge. Our charge is to try to look at each applicant openly and fairly. Now you can say whatever you want because that's what keeps happening. You're asking us to speak, I'm speaking, and you're interrupting.
You're saying that I'm bringing up the past and that I should not be looking at the past, and then you can apply that to the future. So the next person that comes and brings up 71 Walnut Street, then you could say you can't look at the past. So you're looking at it as an individual thing.
Oh, exactly right.
That's what we're trying to do.
That's what the board will spend time.
But what I'm trying to say is that there are pools in the neighborhood. There's a pool.
We're totally aware of what you're telling us.
There's a pool, there's a spa across the street. There are pools behind me. There are pools closer to Main Street. In fact, all of them are closer to Main Street. So I don't understand why I feel like I'm being treated differently than other applicants that have come before this board. I do.
Actually,
I feel like
that's one of the things that we look at. We compare and contrast neighborhood variances. I'm familiar with each and every one of the pools in the neighborhood. My recollection, and I can look at it again, and we will when we review this case in our work session, but some of the pools that you're referring to are not on houses, are not on properties with 2 front yards. So you do have a more challenging lot to work with according to the zoning code, not according to anything about your property. There's nothing challenging about the topography of your property or anything like that, which is one of the reasons why the board would grant a variance. You're a corner lot, and that's covered by the zoning code. Otherwise, there's nothing about your lot that would distinguish you or make it different from any other corner lot.
Could I just say something, because I know nobody wants this to go on forever, but Mark, you made a comment initially, and the overriding, if you read section 712B, the overriding statement that begins that section is that the balancing between the benefit to the applicant versus the detriment to the community, that's the overriding principle, and then there are specific standards under that. But you have to remember that that is the guiding light that directs a board like yours to take action.
And Gil, we agree 100% about that. So what we were going to do, and what I started to say was, is it agreeable to you that we're going to close this for public hearing? And that's exactly what the board will do at the work session, is that they will deliberate and look at the balancing, discuss it fully, consider all of the factors involved, and reach a judgment that is based upon a complete analysis.
Well, I'll defer to my client, but there's nothing, I don't think there's anything else we can really offer.
But if I may, Mr. Chairman, I don't think it was a question of whether or not the applicant will be offering something further unless they have additional facts that they wanted to bring forward. What I thought the chairman was saying is that the board would want the opportunity to review the whole record, in fairness to Ms. Renna and the full board, to make sure that they've got all the facts before them. The board is aware, and I will certainly be consulting with them about the applicable criteria under 7-712B. And the board is aware of that. But I think that the point is that in order to fully assess all of the criteria, taking into account the surrounding area, the particular neighborhood, the individual characteristics of this plot as well as the neighborhood, the board would probably want the opportunity, now that all of the facts have been presented, to go back, take a step back, review them, deliberate, as the board is charged to do, before it renders a decision. I thought that's what the chairman was mentioning. I didn't mean to cut you off, counsel. I hope I did not. But that is what I thought the board was leading up to being able to do. Which I think was something that Ms. Rana she was pointing out some factors that she hopes the board will consider. And this would then allow for the board to do their job appropriately.
The only thing I would add to that is I think that the question of precedent, and council can advise you as to its relevance when you're rendering a decision, when you have other cases that are similar. So I would ask you to consult with council as to that aspect of things when you're doing your deliberations.
I will certainly speak with the board about the impact of what occurs in the surrounding neighborhood. I think the board's point is that while this is not a body that's bound by precedent, but council, I understand your point in terms of what is the surrounding characteristics within the neighborhood and the community.
Thank you. I will just make a request of my client and also of the architect. I don't think that there's anything else that we have to offer at this point. I think we've covered every argument and thought we could have at this point. So that being the case, unless my colleagues on this side of the fence have something to say, I think we should do what the chairman suggested.
Lisa?
I think we've presented everything that we can. Again, Mark, we did speak about the fact that the garage is a three-dimensional structure that has mass that would be viewed from the street, and the proposed spa would be level with the ground. It would not be noticeable by any member of the community whatsoever. So I just would hope that you would take that into account.
I mean, you did say at one point that you do take into account the fact that the property is very well screened, and that the spa will be even further screened.
Do any board members have any questions or requests for any additional information?
I think just discuss it at the work session and we'll decide then and have a decision for next month.
Okay, so then can I have a motion to close case number 3087 for further discussion at our work session?
So
Do I have a
Second.
second?
I think Ms. Stevenson is muted, but is speaking.
Susan, you're muted. We can't hear you.
the file is being closed. No written submissions and no more arguments. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So moved.
And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. So that's 4 votes in favor of closing case number 3087 for public hearing. And we're going to move on to case number 3097, where we have a request for adjournment. Council and I discussed adjournments. Jolie, do you want to take a moment and if anybody wants to leave?
Yeah, I'm just taking a moment and pulling out the okay, I believe everyone's out.
Okay, Council and I had an opportunity to talk a little bit earlier about adjournments, and we're going to consider adjournments as a collective board, whether to accept an adjournment or not, rather than have the applicant submit an adjournment without response. So in the case of Four Fountains, case number 3097, can I have a motion to accept the adjournment of this case?
So moved.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So now we are to discuss case number 3096. Andrew Spreitzer, 85 Hildreth Street. Is the applicant here?
Yes. Andrew Spreitzer is coming in.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't
We
see
can.
you, though.
Okay, hold on. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. All righty. Hi. Thank you for seeing us again. Linda will join. At the last meeting, my takeaway was that you wanted the language cleaned up so that you could really understand what we were asking for. And I submitted a blown up section of the survey. You have the original survey there, and highlighted areas to show you exactly what we were asking for. You have a copy of those, of the written and as well as the color-coded survey?
Yes.
Okay. If you remember, we had asked for relief for a pool, that's out. We asked for 2 sheds, that's out. And frankly, you know, you kind of did us a favor to kind of look at what the lot could handle and what was important. And so it actually, you know, this process is a good thing. So thank you for that. You know, it really, it helps you to focus on what you really need, what would be good for you and for the neighborhood. So the one thing which I don't think, my sense was that that was not going to be a major issue was the porch, adding the porch, which kind of conforms with the rest of the neighborhood. And if you see that on one, because the street is a diagonal, there is a 2-foot, 5-inch encroachment on the front yard setback on the south end, which goes down in a triangular shape to next to nothing of an encroachment of 3 inches. It's a 170 square foot porch that we're only asking for 27.5 square feet. That is non-conforming. So that is the issue on the front porch. I also have, can I screen share just a rendering of what we're planning to have that look like?
That would be great.
So that one. So there's that's the front porch. 8 foot by 22 feet. And then the next request would be the extension of the garage. You have a copy of the original, you have a picture of the garage, which you see that it is not, even though on the survey, it shows that it's not, the whole thing is not a garage. In fact, only 10 feet of that structure, which is connected to the breezeway. So it goes house, which is on the survey as enclosed porch. It's basically just a breezeway to get to the other section. That was always used historically as more living space. There was a laundry in there. There was a bedroom. There was closets. So only 10 foot was actually the garage, 10 by 12. And we're hoping to just increase that so we could actually put a car in there.
And the actual
Yeah, and it-
variance would be for a section of that. It's a 5-foot increase by 12 feet, but only 2.5 feet by 5 feet is not included, based on the, if you look at the building.
Envelope.
Yeah, if you look at the building envelope, it cuts through there.
And in our first meeting with the zoning board, we were looking for a larger increase in the garage, and
We've cut that
and
back.
we reduced that so that we would not be encroaching on the setbacks from the front yard. We have the 25 feet. It's within the 25 feet, and in fact, as the note shows, about a third is in the building envelope already. And it is an existing non-conforming, pre-existing garage space as it is already. So we're just asking for about 35 feet, 35 square feet. And the neighbor on the north side, we have a complete hedge
Screen.
and tree screen. They would not ever see that. And we also hedged the entire property so that within a year, you won't be able to, the hedges will grow and you'd be very hard pressed to see that minor extension. So is it at least clearer?
It's clearer. Andrew, are you working with an architect on this?
We were working with an architect for, that's what that picture is, because we're gonna have to go to the architectural review board after this, so we're gonna need elevations and things like that. But it's all exterior stuff that we are requesting, obviously, a variance for. None of it's living space, and none of it's living space. It's merely being able to use a garage so that it can be used, and then a porch which will make the place look a whole lot better and function.
Because it's a corner lot, we have 2 front yard setbacks. And so our backyard is very small and our side yard is very small. So the reason we've tried to do something to the front yard is so that we have a better use of our front yard. If we have a porch, we actually could sit out on a porch rather than in our backyard where we have very limited space.
And we have neighbors closer.
And in the garage area, we've eliminated a shed and all of that because the space back there is very small on both the back and the side. And so we thought if we could just come out a few feet, those few feet would actually make a difference in terms of our ability to use the space that we have. We're not really trying to expand our building envelope. We're not trying to go up 3 stories. We're not trying to do any of those kinds of changes. We're just trying to make better use of the space that we have in terms of the yard, because our front yard is where our kids play, and that's where we sit, because the backyard is so small and limited and full of trees. So that is why we've looked at these changes that we hope will fit with your understanding of what our needs are and what you're trying to accomplish as well on your end.
Any questions?
Do any board members have any questions?
Mark, I'm still not sure. The back of this garage had a finished room built into it. And from the documentation that we've gotten and stuff, I'm not sure if that has ever gotten a certificate of compliance, or was that built when the house was originally built, or was that snuck into the back of the garage? I couldn't make heads or tail is if that has ever been a legally permitted renovation or addition.
You know, we just bought the house and we were given a C of O, and the C of O says that just described it as a 1.5-story single-family dwelling with front steps and closed porch, of which it's a breezeway, attached garage and deck over existing patio, and that was how it was
But
defined.
it's
And
garage now, it's half garage, because half the garage is a room. And I would like some information, maybe you can research with the building department, is if that has ever been permitted, or if that was added on afterwards, or if that was done when the house was built. If it has, it should be cleared up.
Well, when we went through when we purchased it, I was at the building department, and I had said, because it was still listed as a patio and we had a deck. And I said to Chris, I said, what do I need to get, what do I need for a CO? And he said, we'll just do the porch and that should be it. That would be fine. So I didn't go any further.
What does that mean? We'll just do the porch?
No, he would come and examine the porch, because that was not on the, there was no C of O for that. But the rest, I was taking Tim to mean that the rest was conforming to what they had or what they needed.
Well, may I ask the enclosed porch? I have a survey from 1997 that shows a enclosed porch leading to a frame garage, which is probably the same size as what you have, which is a garage with a room. But what is the enclosed porch? Is that living quarters too?
That's a breezeway.
How can we tell that?
I mean, does it?
I don't know. The whole, it just is confusing that, first of all, a garage that's 10 feet wide, can a car get in there?
It's 12 feet wide. Yes.
12.2.
That's a standard one-car garage,
Yeah, I
12 feet.
thought you said 10 feet, and now you needed a few more feet. Is that not right?
No, I think he said he had 10 feet inside the garage before you run into the room that's built to the back of the garage.
Okay, the length,
Andrew,
length
Andrew,
is not enough.
is your architect, in addition to elevations, have they prepared any floor plans for the interior of the garage living space?
We're working on that, but we've sort of held off because frankly, with COVID and everybody's, we sort of felt like we wanted to do that, but then we took 3 steps back because we weren't sure where we would stand with you, and it would make a difference what we would do on the inside of the house based on what would be approved. So we've talked about things, but our architect hasn't designed, specifically done that, because if we don't get that extra 5 feet, then we would change our plan somewhat.
I mean, it's already there. It's like we're going to change the tile in the bathroom, and this is not a major renovation by any means. We're keeping it.
there's a bathroom in there?
There is a laundry room.
So we're,
In the back of the
I'm
garage?
talking about other parts of the house as well. So I mean, we don't need a huge architectural plans to change to change the tile in the bathroom. So we were limiting the amount of need for an architect, except for with you and the
When we go
and the
forward
ARB.
from there.
We don't have enough to complete our analysis with respect to the zoning code guidelines. For instance, more specifically, we're interested in understanding the benefit for you in the expansion of the garage. And we were inclined to think that, yes, it's not a particularly large detriment to the neighborhood to expand the garage. However, we still have to look at what is the benefit to you. And you're saying that you need to expand the garage so that it is functional as a garage. And we're not sure why it's not functional as a garage right now. And again, we're guessing. So what I'm trending toward is it might be helpful, it would be helpful to the board to see an internal floor plan of what's there now and what will be there, because we're wondering if your need to expand the garage to have it be a functional garage is necessitated by the fact that you have living space at the back of the garage that was never actually permitted.
Right, Mark, and usually we would, in past cases, if there are any violations on a property, before we grant the variance, we'd like any violations cleared up. And we don't know if this is a violation or not, and that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of.
And how do we?
Mark, I can go and talk to the building inspector, see if I can get a history from him.
Right.
And perhaps, I mean, would you mind if the building inspector, it doesn't sound, Andrew, like he took a look at what was in the back of the garage? Or
Right,
do you
because
know
we
whether
were
he did
talking
that?
about that at
Right.
the time. You're right. He came to look at the back where the deck is.
So I
Right.
mean, there's a
You-
number of ways to cross this bridge.
You
I'm
can
sorry.
always get an as-built, so that, you know, that's something that the building department can do for you. But that means that it's, you're a violation, or the building hasn't had the proper inspections.
We bought the house this summer. I can't speak to that. Lou Pizzarello owned the house. We got the latest surveys that, were available to us. We looked at what was there and we didn't think of that as a problem. So I can only say we can do the history. I don't think there's anything at the building department, but perhaps Lou Pizzarello has something in his
No,
files.
he doesn't. He doesn't.
I think it's one of those situations that the house was built, so many years ago. And they had a garage, they added a breeze. I don't know. I can't begin to guess, but I could certainly get the building department to come over and look at what is there and tell us if that's within the guidelines of what is acceptably permitted. I don't have that information.
Okay, so, but that's a good, if you can do that, that would be very helpful. So the
Okay.
board can understand why we're expanding the garage.
Okay.
And as far as the porch goes, if you can show it presented by a surveyor or an architect, whichever one works for you, you may want your architect to show it. We're leaning towards saying yes to the porch. However, it would be very helpful to have an architect certify the dimensions or a surveyor certify the dimensions. But as you said, if you're preparing for the architectural review board and the architect will need to provide those renderings and dimensions at any rate, you may just want to, before you receive a decision from us, have the architect provide to us the same schematics that you're planning on presenting to the ARB.
Right.
I mean, but
Okay.
But isn't the survey from the surveyor showing you
Specifically.
the specific, the square footage and where it sits on the building envelope? Isn't that enough for you?
I don't know that what we received was certified by the surveyor. It was a little bit difficult for me to read. Do any other board members have a comment?
No, but you had a survey from the surveyor, the full sheet.
Plus.
Yeah, your calculation of the relief you needed for the porch is 24 point so many square feet, which is like smaller than a sheet of plywood. But
Right.
was that something that was calculated and certified by an architect? That's what we would like to know.
Okay.
All right. I don't know how to.
Andrew, if that's the case and it's documented either by an architect or surveyor, it's likely the board, sees that as a minimal variance request compared to any possible detriment to the neighborhood. It's just that we need to document it properly.
Okay.
I've been going through all these, I have the same 1997 survey, but I don't see it. I don't know where, is that the most recent one?
No, I gave you one which was the proposed survey that had the new dimensions. It had the sheds and which have been eliminated. You had two new surveys that I had given you. From what he did was he took the 1997 survey that had the same building envelope. This is Nathan Corwin. And he put the proposed onto that because he did both surveys. So the survey had the location of the home and the building envelope hadn't changed. He just added the porch and the garage extension to that. So that's why it says it's a March 27, 1997 survey.
Well, so that is, I have found what you're referring to but when documents are signed, so I don't know legally how that works, but.
If I may, if I'm looking at the survey that the gentleman's talking about, in the upper right-hand corner, it does note January 13, 2021 revised proposed additions. And that one, at least the copy that I was provided, shows that it was stamped in January 14th.
I have November one that's November 3rd, 2020.
That was the first one. Then there was a new one, January 30th, and then January 13th. And they were all given to the 8 copies were all given to the building department.
And it does say proposed additions.
It does not show on the porch. It shows you how many square feet the porch is, but not how many of that 176 square feet, how many of that is that you need the relief for?
Okay. All right.
Andrew, I'm not sure it's going to be more work because these are all documents that you'll need to submit to the ARB anyway, and we'd like to make sure that what you're submitting to the ARB matches what was before us. So, this is all.
I think our understanding, what we were trying to show you is that with a 25-foot setback on one side, it was 24.9 feet, and on the other was 22.7 feet. And we were doing it from a different mathematical interpretation than what you were asking, or what you are now asking for. So we will do it the other way, if that is clearer. In other words, there will be 2 feet, 3 inches, and we'll do the square footage. You'll be able to see it goes down to nothing. That would be what we're asking for, but we will write it.
That's the amount of relief that you're asking for, that little wedge.
That little wedge, that's what we're asking for.
Yeah.
Does anyone have a problem with the wedge?
No. If it's documented properly, we're not going to have a problem with the porch. I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but is that basically what we're saying? Is that we're.
Well, I'm just trying to.
I believe that is what we're saying, as long as it's properly documented.
Exactly.
Okay. And by properly documented, I'm sorry, but you want an architect to draw that out for you.
No,
to
they just need to know what Nathan Corwin can just say it's 22.75 square feet and he signs it.
Is
But-
that
but-
what you want?
But if you're doing it with an architect at any rate to show to the ARB,
Yeah.
that would be a
Better.
preferential way to go, because then we would have a three-dimensional representation as well. It would just be a better record, and then we'd also know that we were matching what the ARB was looking at.
Okay,
It's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna hold you up. It's just a matter of us receiving the same documents that you're.
right. My takeaway is that you're saying if you understand what it is, in fact, we're asking for, if we put it together in a better way, then you are leaning towards thinking that that would be approved. But we need, and so we might as well get our architect to start rendering something, because we'll render on the basis of this fairly positive response on your part. Is that?
Yes, exactly. With respect to the porch, we're going to reserve any opinion about the garage until we understand what's in there.
Okay, which we can remedy by providing you with information from the building department, either getting a building permit that represents what's there,
No,
or
a C of O.
or a C of O.
Correct.
We'll talk to them. We'll get something in writing from them.
Yes. We have your C of O. There is a C of O, but it doesn't discuss the garage. It refers to it as an attached garage, which indicates to us it's a garage and has no.
That the whole thing is a garage, when it never was. But yes, we'll remedy that.
Okay,
I hear you. Okay.
thank you. So do I have a motion to close case number 3096 for all purposes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye.
Thank you.
Good, Mr. Chairman, is this matter then being scheduled for the next meeting of the board?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
So was this closed for written decision, or are you adjourning the,
No, adjourning for all purposes.
okay.
And so I understand, what does that mean?
We're just awaiting additional information from you.
Right, okay.
Architectural renderings with respect to the porch and
Great.
advice from the building department with respect to the garage.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, all of you. Appreciate your time.
Okay, next is, can I have a motion to accept the adjournment of case number 3099, JNC Halsey Neck LLC, 1384 Meadow Lane? Can I have a
You
motion?
asked for a motion, Mark?
Yes, can I have a motion to accept the adjournment of case number 3099?
So moved.
Second.
And just so I'm clear, my understanding, Mr. Chairman, sorry to interrupt, is that was to be deemed the applicant's request for that adjournment, I believe by correspondence.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, I noticed that somehow we were thrown into the mix in the second paragraph of that request. I'd like it on the record that the applicant has asked for the adjournment, and we don't, what we're doing has nothing to do with his asking for the adjournment. Please.
Correct. So we're voting to accept the adjournment requested by the applicant in case number 3099. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we move on to new cases, case number 3002, Southampton RE Partners, 85 Down East Lane. Is the applicant here?
Yes, Lisa Poyeris.
Good evening.
Hi, Lisa.
Would you be willing to allow in Amy Magida and Michael Bruscher, please? They're the landscape architects.
Sure. Please raise your hands.
And I believe Gil Flanagan as well, if necessary.
Okay, everyone's been brought in.
Great, thank you.
And Lisa, are you going to share a screen to make the presentation tonight?
I can do that, I believe. I can find the application here. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the screen up. Share that guy. You can see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So that is the first page of the plans. And Susan, I have to apologize. At the last work session, I did misspeak. I reviewed the narrative that was submitted, and there was tree reductions. The plan that you were, I'm sorry, the narrative that you were looking at divided the trees into two different sections, the area within the 125-foot wetland setback area, and then the area outside of the wetland setback area. And the tree reduction was happening in the area beyond the 125-foot wetland setback. So that number there that was showing 15 trees that was being reduced down to 2 trees, that was correct. So as such, we did not submit a revised narrative because that was a correct description of the proposed plans. And in addition, on Tuesday, we submitted to the board, and hopefully you've received it, and I believe it was emailed directly to Chick as well, a comparison table between the original approved plan as well as the new current approved plan. So with that being said, I was going to allow the landscape architects to walk through the application and just kind of describe the proposed changes, and we'll go from there. And I can also pull up the more detailed plan. Amy, would you like me to do that?
Yeah, if you could bring up the planting plan, that would be helpful.
And Lisa, also the size of the trees has changed, correct?
Yes, the size of the trees was reduced, and Amy can discuss with you about the rationale behind the reduction in the size of the plant vegetation. But it is beneficial in many situations to have smaller species so they can establish themselves better than a larger transplanted species.
But on the other lot, 83 or 87, I don't know which it is. The size of the
95.
are bigger. The next, their other property, which this is next door to.
Yes.
Landscaping, that has the larger species. Isn't this is adjacent?
Amy, if you wanna, I'm just trying to pull up the plan here.
Yeah, no, yeah, this is the plan from 2018. This is the older plan. Do you want to bring up the current one?
I'm working on that.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm trying to find the new share
I'm
screen.
just asking if the size on this project with the reduced sizes of the plugs in the water plus the trees which is you have now reduced, correct?
Correct.
Is that different from what was done by the house, the other lot?
Yeah, the trees, so within the 125-foot setback, all of the plant species have remained the same. It's just the plant sizes that have changed. So for instance, our current plan shows black tupelos that are 4 to 5 inch caliber in size, which is still a pretty robust tree size.
Amy, is that sufficient or do you need me to zoom in more?
This is, maybe my screen has a lag, but this is the older plan from 2018.
Still the older plan.
And these
These
were
are the,
plans that were part of the application, correct?
yeah, and this is the
I
application.
can share my screen if you're having trouble finding.
Yeah, if you, I'm stopping to share, I'm sorry.
We did receive the plans that included the planting plan for 95 down east to kind of give that context. And then Lisa or Amy will explain the changes.
So can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
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 So the 125-foot setback is this boundary right here. So all of the plant species and the plant quantities have remained the same. What's changed is the tree caliber size, as well as the shrub size. And we've gone from 1 gallon container plants in the meadow to plugs. Outside of the 125-foot setback, the clients had requested a more open, sunnier site. So we reduced the quantity of trees. We eliminated the shrubs and we went from understory plants that were more shade tolerant to understory plants that were tolerant of full sun conditions. And all of the plants on both sides of the setback are native.
I think it would help to present the table that was submitted that identified the differences in detail. If the board is
In
in
the
a,
table?
yes.
Okay. So for instance, within the 125-foot setback, the black tupelos were 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9 inch caliber trees, and they've all been reduced to 4 to 5 inch caliber. The swamp white oaks were 6 to 7, 7 to 8 inch caliber, and they've all been reduced to 3 to 4 inch caliber. And again, the quantities have all remained the same. The groundsel bush, they were 4 to 5 foot high bushes, and they're now 5 gallon containers. And again, the quantities, 32, have all remained the same. And then in the meadow, we've gone from 1 gallon plants to plugs that are all spaced 12 inches on center. Also with Chick's guidance, we're using a different methodology to remove the lawn. I think that planting methodology should have been shared with you. Rather than being removed, or rather than the lawn being removed by machines, we're using a method where we're covering and smothering the grass with cardboard, then adding layers of mulch and kind of letting that sit there and decompose the grass. And then the plugs are then inserted into the cardboard layers. And the advantage to this is that it reduces the potential for weeds. And it also, the mulch and the cardboard breaks down into a layer of organic material.
And it reduces the potential for invasives.
Are they doing temporary watering of this, Chick, you know, to get all this planting established?
Well, we should direct the question to the applicant. Proper planting during the proper season shouldn't need it, but you always want to be there to protect your plantings because it's a very expensive restoration. But I would like to hear Amy's input on that.
Yeah, there'd be irrigation until the plants are established.
So you're having temporary irrigation pulled out in a year or so?
I believe so, yes.
I believe Lisa was present at the work session, and I know the zoning board members would like to know, is this essentially, and I'll focus mostly on the within 125 feet, is this an equivalent natural habitat restoration to what was proposed previously? In other words, what do you expect? When will that occur over time? And is it as environmentally, sound, I guess, as the plan that they already approved?
Yeah, the meadow, it will still provide the same advantages in terms of habitat, and it's a huge improvement over what's existing, which is simply a lawn. It's also really an extension of the meadow that's on the 95 side. So in terms of habitat, it's a very ecological approach.
And the proposed diversity that's within the wetland buffer has remained the same, I believe, Amy, as what was originally approved. And that a lot of the tree removal that did happen was only within the area within the beyond 125 foot wetland setback. And that was by primarily the reduction of the proposed orchard that was going to go in that area as well.
There's the elimination of the orchard, but also a grove of trees that was surrounding.
Okay.
Closer to the.
But that area has then also now been replaced with native vegetation as well.
Correct.
So we feel it's a minimal change in order to help, just continue the project along. And we just like the board, see if there are any other questions that either Chick or the board has.
Yeah, after you do your planting, plants that do not establish, let's say you have a die off in the plugs or tree doesn't acclimate to the property, it dies off. You have a plan then to replace those, to replenish what doesn't take hold?
Well, luckily, we have the 95 side as a reference in terms of what's worked and what hasn't worked. I should add that all the plants that we're proposing are deer resistant, though we have found that deer tend to nibble on the aster and echinacea, but the other grasses have held up remarkably well. So we would expect those to perform just as well, if not better, on the 85 side.
And Dan, you typically include a condition for survival. There should be a 3-year monitoring period, and we would look for, a demonstration that there has not been a die-off, or that in the case of mortality of species, that those have been replaced.
Was that a condition of the original plan?
Let me just see if I can check that, unless someone has it handy.
I'm looking.
Don't work so hard. It was just a question.
It may not have been, Susan. I think we've evolved, which is good. But it is possible it was not a condition at that time.
Okay, I think it's good to make it a condition.
Chick, I'm looking at the decision. I don't see it included in one of the conditions. But we can definitely include that in this new one.
And I do usually look, these days I look for that as a note on the landscape architecture plan, so that it's in 2 places and it's more likely to be observed and recognized.
Okay. We can definitely add that to the plan.
So Mark, we had kind of a jump start on this because we discussed it quite a bit at work session. But we should see if the board members have any questions. I'd be happy to make any remarks.
Yeah, Chick, please, what would your remarks be? What's your view of this revised plan?
Well, we did meet with the applicant prior to the submission. We did make those suggestions that were mentioned regarding the control of invasives and the way that we have had great experience with in removing the grass that's already there. I did say at the work session, and I continue to maintain that this is a separate piece of property that at least originally was subdivided and probably envisioned for a house. And we have a full restoration within the 125-foot setback with native species, which is extremely beneficial. The application, I mentioned at the work session, but should put on record here. The application did include the nitrogen reduction of removing that lawn, which is substantial. I believe that the type of species and the density and the mix of shrubs and the diversity of species will help with wildfowl control, which typically happens on properties with lawn, particularly near the water. We all know about the problems with geese. The change in the plan, I'm pretty comfortable with. I think you get a sense from the table that the caliber of the species is still pretty large. You know, there is a cost involved with that, and Lisa mentioned, and I'm sure Amy would agree that, you know, sometimes a smaller species that is less stressed by transplant will do better and actually catch up to or exceed a larger tree that's installed. The change from containers to plugs, we've seen good success with plugs. And again, the diversity here, I think, speaks well to the plan, that it's not just one type of ground cover that we're looking for, that there is a diversity, which, you know, if there is some die off, you know, probably would only occur with one species, or would be less likely to occur with all of the species. The 12-inch on-center spacing is generally recognized as a good spacing. And we do have, you know, the protection of a condition that will guarantee survival. So I expect this catching up to 95 relatively quickly. I expect it catching up to what was approved previously by this board for 85. And I think that, at least in my opinion, it's a good plan that achieves the same goals as the original approval.
Are there any other questions from board members?
No, I'd just like to add, Chick, that when they were going to build the house, I was on a different board and I went over there. And the only thing over there was a whole lot of deer and a whole lot of geese. So you're right on.
I was there also, Susan, prior to the ARB, probably when it was subdivided, and the prior house was there. And there was an extensive lawn with a berm, and it was trapping water, and it was really not a desirable situation. So good comment.
So if there's no other questions from the board, is there any way I could ask that the hearing be closed pending written decision and submission of the revised plans, which indicate the survival rate and the 3-year term?
Absolutely. We don't have anybody from the public who wishes to be heard, do we?
There, no, it's one person's in there,
Okay.
but it's not pertaining to this case, I don't believe.
So yes, Lisa, we can make a motion. Can I have a motion to close this for all purposes pending decision? And
So moved. So moved.
Dick, you'll write it.
Second.
Yeah. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Yes, Mark, I have clear direction on this. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I think that's the last matter on the agenda. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing for the Southampton Village Board of Zoning Appeals, February 25th, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.